Batting down ahead, 20th, 2015. Dog is in the kennel this morning with my good friend Jim Senecrope. We're going to be talking about a buffet of sports topics. Yes, and it's going to be a little chilly this week. We had a great weekend, didn't we? But they're talking about, I don't know, some rain, maybe low 50s, high 40s, even a possibility of a little SNOW on the higher elevations this week. Good morning, everybody. It's the Dog H. Weber with you here on a Monday morning. Welcome to Weber This Week, brought to you by a great bunch of sponsors. We're glad to have you alongside. Our original guest schedule for this morning was longtime sports guy, famous athletic director, famous athlete at Lions for many years, Rod Verke. Rod was going to be on the couch this morning to talk about a lot of topics. But unfortunately, he is bowed out of the show. The reason being is his son, Duke, and his wife expecting a baby any moment down in the Binghamton area. And him and Shar, his wife, wanted to be there in case they needed some support. So we understand. We'll get Rod back in a couple of weeks. So we look forward to having the next 20 or so minutes to talk about a multitude of subjects with Jim. And first off, Jimmy, we're going to follow up on a topic that I brought to your attention a week or two ago, and that was the Bryant kid who was recruited by Syracuse to come in next year as an incoming eligible player. A lot of game, I guess. I don't know where he ranked as high school kids, but he expanded his story of why he picked Indiana, Jimbo, and basically his attitude was that when he went to IU, the teammates of Indiana University embraced him, talked to him, made him feel at home, and he didn't get that treatment at Syracuse when he visited the Orange Land. And I wanted to get your opinion since you're a graduate of Syracuse. The only one that talked to him when he visited SU, and his opinion was McCullough. So did you read about that? Were you surprised at that? I know you didn't think it was a big loss, but what'd you think about Bryant's opinions of Indiana embracing the kid? That's why he chose him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't, it seems kind of strange to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah.
You know, just like I say, it seemed to me like Syracuse didn't necessarily want him so much down the stretch, so they might have their reasons. It's obviously, in another article, his mother, Thomas Bryant's mother, said it was because the program was in chaos. But I'll tell you what's in a program that's in more chaos than Syracuse, and that's Indiana.
Yeah, they got some issues there. There's no doubt about it. I'll tell you, Syracuse, of course, Jimmy probably knows the kid's name by heart. It would take me a while to bring it to my memory lane. But the recruiting class SU is about to land or has landed. There was some television coverage this week of some of the prospects playing on ESPN and ESPN3.
Malachi Richardson?
Yep. According to the so-called experts, this is going to be the best class that SU has landed in many, many, many years.
And that's without Bryant.
Exactly. So,
but again, even with that, I just don't get too worked up. I mean, we always have good recruits in every year. And, I remember a couple years ago, B.J. Johnson and Ron Patterson were big recruits that we were excited about, and they're transferring out. And, Chris McCullough was one of the bigger recruits in recent memory. He played half a season, got hurt, and he's gone. So I find it really hard to get too excited because I know we're always going to have good recruits coming in. And so whether they're ranked 44th or 22nd, I mean, who knows? And plus they're so young that by the time they get there and to the time they leave, whether it's 1, 2, or 4 years, so much can change. So I'm just happy that we have the type of program that will attract top recruits, and then we'll go from there. And honestly, everybody gets, there's a dozen schools that, like Syracuse, that get that caliber. Maybe more, maybe 20, 25 schools that really get that caliber. You got Duke in Kentucky, North Carolina. Sure. Maybe they get the first pick, but we get players that turn down Duke in Kentucky as well. So it's once you get them there, it's about the system and the coaching. And, that's the other thing that's so amazing about Boeheim's consistency in winning, 20-win seasons and such, is that, he's got great players, but so do a lot of other ones. So what's the difference? I think it's that, his system and his style.
What's your opinion on the Dome? A lot of people were complaining when the Eastern Regional of the NCAA tournament just completed a couple weeks ago. A lot of people saying it was damp, it was cold, there was air coming through, it's outdated, needs to be torn apart, torn down, reconstructed. What's your personal opinion, since you're an SU grad? Is it time for the Dome to get a makeover, or is it time for the Dome to get a different location? I don't know. There's a lot of comments about the dome, and a lot of people were commenting about the dome is outdated per se.
The dome for football and basketball are two different things. I
Right.
think for basketball, it's still phenomenal. You can get 30,000 people in there, all with a good view of the game. There, you can walk around in the backcourt and see all the attractions back there, and it works for basketball.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think the video upgrades they made recently are good. Now football is a bit of another story,
Right.
and I think that's one of the things that might hurt attendance, because when we play September games in the dome, home games, it's tough to convince somebody to come inside on a 75-degree day and
Good
watch
point.
a football game inside. And then once you get in there on days like that, it's very uncomfortable.
Yep.
I mean, it's a home court field advantage, I suppose, for Syracuse in that environment, but we're not filling it because it's just not a pleasant place to go. So for football, I wouldn't mind seeing something new, but I think the dome's great for basketball, and I think anybody complaining about it that was at that, that's crazy. I mean, go to the dome, and a lot of people listen to the show go to the dome quite a bit, and never once for a basketball game have I said, this is just old and outdated and not much fun. It's I don't know. I like it for basketball. I think we might be moving towards a redevelopment of the dome. Maybe a one thing they talked about is retractable roof.
Yeah.
Keep the place in the same location, because the alternative would be the South Campus maybe and do a football only facility there. And they talked about doing a basketball facility that, towards downtown or Armory Square by where the Chiefs play. I don't like it. I like the place where it is. One of the things that makes Syracuse special is the on-campus facility, and so I don't want to see. I don't think it needs to change, but I think changes are coming. I think they'll be good, and I think they'll keep them in the same location.
Interesting, and of course, recently John Calipari, after losing the title, which everybody thought he was odds-on favorite to win, including myself, not winning, Wisconsin knocking them off, Duke eventually winning, and geez, I got a free lunch coming from Jimmy. I just thought about that.
Oh, that's right.
At Reds, oh baby, they have surf and turf.
What was the bet?
I took Duke. You took Wisconsin for the final.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and you didn't like the Dukies.
No, I still don't.
I know you don't. But I was curious and thinking, boy, a lot of speculation about one and done. People that go to college for 1 year got athletic ability and decide to opt for the NBA. Calipari had 7 kids at the table, and plus him and a couple of assistants. And he said, everybody going to the NBA draft, stand up, and they all stood up. You okay with the one and dones? You okay, Jim, with that theory being that you got the talent, why not market yourself and make some cash? And I'm sure that all these kids are going to probably get drafted. My point is, are you in favor of the continuation? A lot of speculation. The NCAA might change that rule down the road and make them stay for at least a couple years.
I don't blame any of these kids. I think sometimes they make bad decisions, but you know what? When I was 18 or 19 years old and somebody said, geez, tomorrow you can have $300,000 or whatever, even for some of these guys that are going second round, they're not set for life, but all of a sudden they don't have to do schoolwork.
Right.
They're getting a ton of money and they're playing basketball. Yep. It's tough to tell them no. So I don't really put the blame with the kids. I think that it's kind of ridiculous to say to a kid that you have to go to school for 1 year before you can go to the NBA, because that just defeats the purpose of going to school.
Right.
So I would like to see them remove it. I'd like to see them let these players go directly from high school to the NBA. The D League is also much improved. So you can take some of these younger kids, put them in the D League instead of making them go to classes and pretend to be a student for 1 year until they can build their stock for the draft. Oh, that's your new phone.
It's my new phone. I hear, and I lowered the tone on it. Hey, folks, I got a new cell phone, by the way. It's technology. Shut that thing up. But all kidding aside, I agree. If you got marketability, you can make some cash. Why not? It's the American dream,
Who
right?
can you say? Who can tell you no? If I'm a 17-year-old computer programmer and Google wants to hire me before I graduate from high school, nobody's going to stop me. So I think it's the same thing for these guys, even though a lot of times I do think they make bad decisions by going early that could ultimately affect their earning potential down the road. But I would like to see him remove that rule. And I'm also against, although it seems like a good idea to say, okay, let's say that if you're going to go to college, you got to stay there for 2 years or 3 years. I think that you can't tell. You can't.
It's hard.
It's a free country.
It is free country still. Well, Jimmy, today the Red Sox play Baltimore at home in Boston at 11 o'clock. Why is that? The famous Boston Marathon will convene again after lunch today, expecting 35-mile-an-hour winds with some rain showers. And, of course, Jim, that's one of the spots that we want to forget, but you can't forget the tremendous issues there a couple years ago where they had the Boston bombing and tragic, but you give Boston, man, Boston is strong. They are not going to bow down to terrorists or anybody that wants to play games and kill innocent people like we just saw. And one of the brothers, obviously one of them died, and the other one is now going into a trial, I think starting tomorrow or next day, regarding the death penalty. I as a sports guy and I as a human being think it's wonderful that Boston did not cave in and decide to cancel it, worrying about security. Boston's strong. I think it's great. They're going to continue it. And as far as I'm concerned, I know this is off the cuff. I don't know why we're wasting all this money on these trials. I know it's America. I know you're entitled to a trial. And I had Judge Bender here last week, so I hope he's not watching. I don't know why we're spending all this money. I mean, the guy's dead to rights, and there's speculation now they may not vote for the death penalty. And his second trial, they may vote for life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. I'm mixed, and I don't know. I'm mixed on the death penalty. I'm pro-death penalty. I just, Jimmy, don't think that there's speculation in the Boston area that they may not vote for that. They may keep him in a cell for the rest of his worthless life. And I'm serious. I think that, you're not going to convince me otherwise that he's not part of this guilty scheme with his brother. So that's taking place starting tomorrow. But go Boston Marathon. I'll be checking it out later this afternoon. And I love the way those people down in Boston appreciate it. They will stay with the game and not change their big event.
Right.
Kudos to them. So, hey, let's talk about the world of baseball before we take our commercial break. Of course, the season's underway, and a lot of weird things are happening. I've never been a Mets fan. I call them the Mutts. My buddy up there, Charlie up at the Deluxe he's a big Mets fan, lives and dies by those Mets. And I used to pick on him ferociously about how worthless that team is. But, hey, I got to eat crow. They're playing great baseball, undefeated at home. Let's see, what is their record? Oh, my. 10-3, Jimmy, undefeated at home. I don't want to see the Mets win every game at home. This is embarrassing to me. But, hey, with Harvey and their pitching staff, they're getting some good hitting. Give them credit. I hate to say it on this show, but I must give the Mets credit. They're playing good ball. It's early, though.
Oh, yeah, baseball season's so long, but it's exciting. Gives them hope.
Yep.
Better than a 3-10 start.
Yep. How about the Yankees and A-Rod? Everybody had speculation. Would A-Rod have the bat speed? He's near 40s, getting up there in age. He's had those drug charges. Now, what kind of player would A-Rod be? A-Rod's batting .320 or .318. He's had some home runs. He seems to be fielding decently. A-Rod, surprisingly, Jimmy, I know it's early, but he's playing pretty good ball. A-Rod.
Yeah, the problem with the Yankees, I'm okay with the Yankees going through a bit of a rebuilding process. It even will be enjoyable, I think, to follow that. But the problem I have with this Yankee team is the only way it seems like they're going to be successful is if A-Rod does well. And I don't like A-Rod. I don't want to see A-Rod have success.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of depressing in a way, trying to follow the Yanks this year. Because they're not very good, but A-Rod has surprised.
Yeah, he has surprised everybody.
I just can't get behind them, so it's disappointing. I look forward to the day when A-Rod's not in the Yankee uniform anymore, and they can start to truly, build a new team. The pitching's another thing that I don't think they're gonna. They go play Detroit now for 4 games.
4 game set starting tonight. We'll see how good the Yankees are, folks, because they're playing in Detroit starting tonight at 7:00. Yankees now 6-6 a game behind in the American League East. Obviously very early, a sample of 12 games. But I'm curious to see how they make out. Sabathia, who to me has not been very effective. I liked him when he was much bigger a few years ago, when he would intimidate people.
Yep.
He's not doing that right now. I'll be curious to see how they play against Detroit. Can they split the series? I think that would be a win for the Yankees. The Tigers are 10-2. And by the way, that's without Verlander, who's on the DL. Tigers with Cabrera. It's going to be curious. I think that's the early benchmark. How really good are the Yankees? If the Yankees can split the series against Detroit in Detroit, I'd be thrilled if you're a Yankee fan. It'll be time to tell. By the way, John Lester, of course, Boston and Oakland fame, gets signed by the Cubbies for like $32 million a year. No, I didn't stutter. Over $30 million he's making. 0-2, John Lester loses to San Diego yesterday. Yeah. And 0-2, the guy's getting $30 million a year. And they had that big contract with John Lester. I know it's early, but it does bring you one. And Jimmy, a question here before we take a commercial break. What does the Auburn Double Days and the Tampa Bay Rays have in common?
The D-Days and the D-Days are affiliated with the Nationals, right? So I don't know what they have in common with the D-Days.
They both play in the NYP League. Oh, my God, that Tampa Bay team, Jimmy, oh, my God. I didn't know, except Longoria, I didn't know one other player besides Longoria in that team. Well, I didn't know where these kids come off the street.
Joe Madden's in Chicago now, so they don't have him.
Oh, my God. What a horrible franchise that is.
Well, they've done well.
Yeah, they have.
But with Madden gone and the roster they have left, probably not so much this year. Yanks beat him yesterday.
Swept the series. Yep. Swept the series. But what a horrible franchise. They got like 13,000 people in there. Oh, my God. I couldn't get over it. What a terrible. I know they played over their heads, but this year could be a real long year. Detroit, of course, leading their division. Baltimore leading the AL East. Big battle going on there. Let's see what else. Houston leading the American League West. That'll change, I'm sure. And in the National League, of course, the Mets are playing out of their minds. St. Louis expected to be right there. They are in first place in the National League Central. And the Dodgers are first place by a half a game. So it's interesting. Baseball underway. And let's take our commercial break. We'll come back and talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll talk about a couple other opinions, and we'll preview upcoming shows here on Weber This Week on a Monday, the 20th of April. We'll be right back. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquors, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Wilson Press, WPress.com, Seneca Falls. Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. We're back here on Weber This Week on a Monday, the 20th of April. Hope you had a good weekend, everybody. It's a dog with you, along with Jimmy Senecropi, our original guest that we scheduled for this morning. Rod Verke was to be on the couch. His son Duke and obviously Duke's wife expecting a baby any moment now in the Binghamton area. So Rod, obviously, along with his wife Shar, are down near the Binghamton area in case they need help with the arrival of a new baby. So we wish them, Duke and his wife, the best of luck in that endeavor. If you're a racing fan, Matt Kenseth wins the rain-delayed good old Bristol race yesterday, and I watched parts of it. They had obviously a couple rain delays as the southeast is getting crushed with bad weather, and it continues to get crushed today. It's supposed to clear out, I guess, in the next day or so. NBA playoffs, if you're a follower of that, I got to talk to my friend Dave Barnick, who will be here next week. Dave Barnick from the south end of the county will be on the couch next week. He's a big Celtic fan, and Jimmy, you know, I don't know about your opinion of this. I just have a hard time understanding the NBA playoff scheme.
That's the worst.
They allow teams in that are 11 games under 500. Are you kidding me?
Well, they expect us to talk about it, at least so first-round matchups.
Oh, God.
Can Milwaukee beat Cleveland? No, they can't. Guess what? No. They'll play games. They might win one or two, but they won't beat Cleveland.
It's so bad.
It is. It's terrible.
They should not, unless you're 500 or better, you should not make the playoffs. I don't care if the NBA field has 6 teams. If you don't get 500 record, you play 82 games. If you're 41-41, you get a ticket to the playoffs. I have no problem with that. But when you're like the Celtics, 10 or 11 games under 500, and you're a playoff team, and there's other teams that we don't have more than 10 minutes left on this show, it's ludicrous. And Jimmy's right. The cream always comes to the top. The Spurs, who have dominated the NBA, give Popovich a lot of credit out there. They got crushed by the Clippers last night. I'd like to see their run end, and it may with the Clippers. But I just have a hard time understanding how the NBA can say, you're in the playoffs. Oh, what's your record? 11 games under 500. What? It just
back
logic.
in October, we could have named 6, maybe 8 teams that had a chance.
Exactly.
And I guarantee you that in June, it'll be 2 of those 6, 8 teams. But there's 16 teams in the playoffs, right? Yeah. So, I mean, what are we wasting our time with here?
I agree.
It is so drawn out and so boring.
Yep.
I
agree. I watched very little of it. I watched a little bit, about 3 minutes of the Cavaliers game.
I pick it up in the semifinals pretty much. You know, I've been suckered in the past where I've been like, especially a few times when Carmelo was in Denver, and I watched that series, and then after a little bit, I'm like, what am I doing? I know who's going to win this. It's predestined. And even if one of these higher seeds should some miracle beat a lower seed team, you know, in advance from the first round, they aren't going to go much further than that. There's no Cinderellas in the NBA.
I agree.
And so the whole regular season and the whole first 2 or 3 rounds of the playoffs are just an exhibition, basically, so we can, you know, it's too bad. It's too bad because they're the best athletes in the world, and I love the sport of basketball, and I love college basketball. But this NBA playoffs are not fantastic, if you ask me.
And the hockey playoffs are underway. I've watched a little
bit of that.
Now,
there is a little better postseason, right?
Yeah, they do. They're underway. I watched a little bit of that action yesterday. I watched the Islanders, who were laughable a few years ago. They got their act together. They had a good game against Washington yesterday, beating them 2-1. I've been watching, parts of those games unfold. And you speak about great athletes. I know NBA is tough, run up and down the court. But I want to tell you something. Those hockey players always impress me, Jim. The speed that they go at each other and the bangs they nail them against those. Oh, my God. I don't know how they do it. You talk about being in fitness. Oh, my Lord. I'd have to say for straining, for ability, those NHL players could be the hardest things to do night in and night out. I mean, they're going like up and down the rink.
And they're not making as much money as the NBA players, so they're not quite as coddled. They're tougher. The endurance factor is a huge part of it. Anybody that's tried to ice skate,
Yep. I can't think of her name, Jimmy. Switching subjects, the ESPN reporter, the local reporter. You may have seen the video on her.
I can't come up with a name off the top of my head either. But
ripping the. She got her car towed. She was illegally parked. She was I don't believe she's not based in Bristol, the home of ESPN, but she's one of the field reporters. She gets a lot of play. Good-looking woman. And she went ballistic and very whacked out, started criticizing the lady who was towing her car away.
I'm going to give her a pass.
Okay.
Because if you look into it a little further, this tow company has a lot of negative reviews online. Do. Now, what tow company is going to have positive reviews, right? But, I can see her situation, feeling like she was being taken advantage of, and then being treated poorly by one of the people working there. But she did step over the line. But, I don't think this is the type of deal where she needs to be fired. They
suspend her for a week.
Right. It's ridiculous. She was a little.
Oh wow! Disrespectful.
Yeah, but the woman was probably started out that way. The woman on the other side of the glass there,
the tow driver.
Yeah, was probably started out. Being condescending to her. So I think it's a non-story.
And Jim knows, since he's technologically sound and iPhone, which I'm unable to figure out it. There's so many gadgets on this phone. I never thought I would go high-tech in the 21st century, but I decided, since I had a free upgrade coming, I decided to splurge and go for the... And I'm learning every day on this phone, even though you heard it go off, and I still haven't figured out how to turn it off. But all seriousness, folks, as the dog gets older and grayer, I like to think... But Jimmy, since you are a techie, one thing that's very noticeable about our country today, with these smartphones, there is, Jimmy, absolutely nothing that you can get away with without somebody taking video of it. Would you agree with that? There's just nothing that you can do in this country anymore without somebody
either you lock yourself in the closet.
It's amazing. They have clips on everything. And if you don't have the phone working with the video, they have all these cameras at all these places checking you out.
George Orwell's
amazing.
Prophecy from the book 1984 has come true.
Amazing.
He was a little later than he anticipated, but there's cameras everywhere watching you when you are in public. Sometimes when you're in your privacy of your own home, a lot of people have security and home monitoring.
Yeah.
Just look at what happened with Aaron Hernandez.
Yep.
That was his own home security
exactly.
that got him. So it's a different world. I would think it's for the best. I think it's good to not be able to hide in the shadows for the unscrupulous types. And for the law-abiding citizens, I guess they don't have too much to hide. And the other thing is, it's not necessarily government monitoring. It's people, citizens. Sometimes doing a lot of this taping is private citizens. Now you can argue the government has the ability to tap into almost anything that's out there. So in effect, it's all government monitoring. But it's a crazy, crazy world out there when everybody has in their hand a device that's more powerful than the most powerful computer on earth and the most powerful video camera on earth, in 1985. So,
did you ever think I'd be carrying this thing around, a magical Verizon 4G phone? Unbelievable, even for the dog. I got to learn how to turn it on. I must say, the one video that still cracks me up, and this is going to go to trial, and that insurance executive that gave tons of money to the sheriff. He was working part-time, and you've read the story, you've seen the story, and it's still in the news, whereas he chased this dude who was running away from him, and instead of grabbing the taser, he grabbed his gun and shot him, and then after he shot him, he said, "I'm sorry," and the guy's dead 2 seconds later when his partner's got his knee on his neck. And I have a good friend who's a sheriff that I hang out with, and I asked him, never being a police officer, is that a problem? Do you get confused sometimes when you need the taser versus the gun? He says, no
way.
And this guy gets up on Today's Show, Matt Lauer, and he shows him, he said, well, I keep my taser inside my jacket in a special cover to pull out. He says, my gun is near my back right side rear. And he's telling us, and we watch the Today Show every day. I know a lot of you watch GMA, and maybe some of you watch CBS, but we are Today followers, and I'm thinking, that made him look stupider. To me, there's such a word as stupider, but he looked like it. I don't know. I guess I don't understand. If you're a part-time cop, I would think if I'm chasing somebody, geez, the taser's inside my pocket, and my gun is in the back.
If you can...
So he went to the back and grabbed his gun and shot him. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me.
If you can't tell the difference between a gun and a taser, you shouldn't have a gun. Or a taser.
Or a taser. I don't know, folks. This country is weird. I mean, it's just amazing. So I don't know.
Well, what happens if that isn't videotaped? What happens, in all these incidents?
Right.
I'm pro-police for the most part. And again, the police that maybe we deal with here in Seneca Falls are a different cut than the St. Louis or Philadelphia or New York City, because we know them. They're part of our smaller community. But I think that you got to keep the powers that be in check.
Yep.
So in that regard, it's good that we have video everywhere, know, and the police shouldn't be concerned about that if they're doing everything by the books. In that particular case where that gentleman was shot in the back running away, it's just kind of sickening. So, and if there wasn't someone videotaping it, he would have got away with it.
Hey, by the way, switching topics to a sport that myself and Jimmy are starting to play a little bit, and that's the game of golf. I know Geneva's underway, and I know the Silver Creek, and my buddy over there is underway, Norm, and we're out playing some golf. The course, Seneca Falls Country Club's in great shape. I'm sure the other ones are. We did get a little bit of rain last night, but it's nice to get the golf season underway finally after that miserable, ridiculous winter that we had. And I'm playing with Johnny King and Brad Jones. We've been playing together for years. It's a lot of fun, and I'm a member of Seneca Falls Country Club. Jimmy, of course, is the president of our club. A reminder that you got a great deal down there at Seneca Falls. I know you just saw the ad on it when we broke for our sponsors. $1,200. If you weren't a member last year, $1,200 with tax is $1,296, and that throws in a cart. Jim will throw in a cart for
golf
you.
And cart, unlimited.
Unlimited, folks. It's a deal of the century. If you want to join, I urge you to be a part of the Seneca Falls Country Club. A lot of leagues going underway. We signed up, myself and my buddy Peter Pontius. We haven't ever played in the Monday Night League. We are playing this year. Thursday Night Men's League, Senior League on Tuesday morning. The ladies got their days and their nights to play. It's just a great club. We have a lot of fun, and Dennis Lays.
Weekend morning tea times for members, preferred times for the members.
Preferred times for the members. So if you're watching me right now and you haven't made a decision, I'm telling you, it's a steal of the century. It's $1,200 for a single with tax, $1,296 your check. But nice, and they'll run a 12-month payment plan if you want to go that route. Yeah. But the beauty of it, folks, you get a cart. How important is a cart? I'll tell you how. I retired the other day when the weather got nicer and the club was open and we were able to run carts around the course. I went down one morning, played 4 holes. I played 10, 11, 12, 13. I had to go to an appointment. I drove off. Dennis took my clubs. Off I went. Next day I came in and played 27 holes. So I'm saying it's great. You can play 3 holes or 250 holes. You can just keep playing all day. As Jim will tell you, you can go out there at 7 in the morning and stay all day long. You just play and keep running the cart. And it's the beauty of it. So, I mean, that is a big deal. That cart usually costs you, what, $540, $560, something like that. Something like that.
Yeah, even a little more.
Over $500, maybe $600. That's a big steal. So, again, we urge you to join the Seneca Falls Country Club. You'll have a ball. We are really friendly down there, and you can hook up with us. As a matter of fact, we need a 4th. It's hard because we've been advertising.
I don't know if we want any new members hooking up in your foursome,
Listen,
dog.
We've been trying to get a 4th for years. Nobody wants to play with us because we bust chops. And you got to spend a little money because we want to do a little bit of gambling, just a little bit to have some fun. So if you could take some heat, we'd love to have you as part of our foursome. But you also got to lose to us so you can pay us at the end. Hey, by the way, just give you a rundown on our upcoming guest next week, David Barnick, the mouth from the South. David Barnick, big Celtic fan. I'm sure he'll take exception to my comments about the Celtics making the playoffs, even though those bums were 10 or 11 games under 500. David will be here with some opinions, I'm sure. That'll be next week. And then, of course, the following week, we are thrilled to bring in the Trinity Church to some, namely Kathy Jan Duffy, along with Jan Carasillo. Big doings at the Trinity Church. We'll talk to them. Upcoming shows, we're working on pinning down some dates. Menzo Case, the president of the Generations Bank, talking about Habitat for Humanity. He is one of the driving changes and the leadership of that, along with a lot of other people that help out there. But he'll be in and talking about they're expecting to build 5 houses this year for Habitat for Humanity.
Amazing.
Menzo Case will be our guest. And we're also trying to pin down a couple of ladies or lady and a man. We don't really care about the National Women's Hall of Fame. What's going on with that knitting plant over there? You see it all boarded up? How's that coming? When's it going to be done? What's the story? How's the financing working out? A lot of questions about the Women's Hall of Fame here in Seneca Falls, and we're going to try to get you a couple guests to explain to us what's going on.
2 things quick, dog.
Sure.
Congratulations to everyone who competed in the Seneca 7 yesterday.
Perfect.
A 77.7 mile run around Seneca Lake, teams of 7. You start at 7 in the morning, you end at 7, 8 at night.
Perfect.
So great job. They had great weather. Congratulations to Jeff Henderson, who organizes that event. And what's the other point I wanted to make? Oh, congratulations to Sharon Holtland and everybody over at the Gould Hotel in the Seneca County House of Concern for their traveling little black dress fashion show. It was their
fabulous.
3rd annual. We have a highlight reel on Finger Lakes 1 this week for you to check that out and see some of the local models and some of the spring fashions. That was another great event. Raised a ton of money for the Seneca County House of Concern. And I know Mary was there, right?
My wife Mary, it's a can't-miss event for her. Her and my good friend Sandy Lopez and Barb Peck and the host of Mary's Friends, they always make sure they go to that fashion show every single April. So it's a great time. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed our little talking about many topics in the world of sports. And by the way, before I sign off, if you'd like to come on my show, we're not going to bite you. You just come in on the couch. We'd like to get you to come in. We'd like to get 2 or 3 guests, not really more than that if we can allow it. We'd like to come in, talk about a charity, a benefit, a sports happening. If you want to talk about your son or your daughter or your aunt or your uncle, we'll talk about anything on the show. Just keep it clean and let me know. You can email me through Weber This Week on my show page. You can get a hold of Jimmy here at Finger Lakes 1 and tell him the topic, and I will track you down and we'll set up a date. We would love to get you engaged to come on the show. That's what it's all about. We do the show every Monday from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Until then, folks, until next week when Dave Barnick joins us, you all have a great week. It's not going to be a warm week, but take care. We'll catch you next week. That's Weber This Week, my way.
FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com.